You're on.
Hi, I'm Berkeley Barber.
Cadet Morales. I'm Cadet Shannon Page, and we are doing a project on planet Uranus. Uranus was discovered by William Herschel in March 13th, 1781. It's the seventh planet from the Sun. It is 2.87 billion kilometers away from the Sun. Okay. So, the atmosphere. It is made up of hydrogen, helium, methane, and some acetane. And when you see the planet, or pictures of it, it appears to be blue-green, and that is due to methane that is around its surface. The red light is absorbed, making it appear to be blue-green. And the winds blow around the planet's atmosphere in the direction of its rotation. So, I'm going to use this. So, winds blowing across like this. Like around this? Yeah. Okay. Basically. And the winds are very powerful, range from anywhere from 90 to 160 miles per hour. So it's pretty intense.
Voyager 2. So the Voyager 2, it was the only spacecraft that has visited Uranus. It visited January 4th, 1986. It came within 50,600 miles of Uranus. Discovered most of the known moons on Uranus as well. Video.
This is footage that was taken
Open up.
in '86, and it was, Uranus was fairly new, so this information was the best that they had. It was a breakthrough that they got a spacecraft close to Uranus, and it's still the only spacecraft that has visited Uranus. So what we know about Uranus is mostly based off this and what we observe from Earth. So we can show the video.
It's not funny.
Okay, it's not funny.
So moons, Uranus has 27 of them. Most of the planets are named after. Oh.
It's playing.
Yeah. Okay.
Did see clouds in the atmosphere of Uranus, and they did tell us something. In fact, Uranus is a tipped-over version of the infinite Saturn. The cloud patterns are more muted, but they have the same color.
Now what that says is that the spin of a planet is the all-important process or thing that organizes weather.
Uranus is a very peculiar planet in the sense it's tipped on its side right now with the south polar region pointed at the sun. We had expected that the magnetic field pole would also be up near the rotational axis, so the magnetic field would be tipped on its side. What we found was, to everyone's surprise, that the magnetic field, rather than being pointed at the sun, was tilted some 60 degrees from the rotation axis. Not only that, but the center of the magnetic field was displaced from the center of the planet by almost a third of the radius of the planet. Uranus's magnetic field is a bit stronger than that on Saturn, and it extends some 300,000 miles from the planet. The rotation period, that is the length of the day on Uranus, is measured by how rapidly the magnetic field is rotating, is about 17 and a quarter hours.
Okay. And in the video it was talking about Saturn, and that's because Jupiter and Saturn are very much alike. So they are, one of the missions that they're planning, which we'll talk about later, is they're going to take a trip, planning a trip to go to Uranus and Jupiter because they're so much alike. So there are 27 moons, and they are all named after characters in Shakespeare's plays, and this is a list of the moons. One that you'll obviously recognize is Juliet, but all of these come from different plays and specification, it was very influential at the time.
So rings, there are currently 11 rings that we know of. The outermost ring, or Selene ring, is made of a large ice boulders. So, I mean, you could imagine what that would look like. These rings are different than the rings on Jupiter or Saturn. They're made of small that haven't been discovered yet, really, due to the low reflectivity.
Yeah, so there might be several rings that have not truly been discovered yet, but we have various suspicions about how many there are, because there, again, has only been one mission, so the next mission will be able to discover more about the rings and the basic stuff like that, so. Okay, so, as I was saying, this planned mission, it's very rough draft right now. It has not been finalized or anything like that, but it is planned to go around 2020, and they're saying that this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar mission, so it's kind of, they're trying to see what they need to cut down, if they can cut down anything to make it less expensive, because that's not really something that we want to pay for, but it is on the top of the to-do list for NASA and all these other space stations, because Uranus is so very
rotates on its axis every 11 hours and 14 minutes. It turns into a retrograde direction, which is opposite to the direction of Earth and the Sun's other 6 planets turn. You go next one. You go next one. Here's a video on the planet.
Seventh planet from the Sun, a gas giant with no solid surface. From Earth it appears a satin-smooth blue ball. But get up close, and you'll see that this frigid world has some of the oddest quirks found anywhere in the solar system. Welcome to Space School. Can be seen with the naked eye, but ancient astronomers were convinced it was a star or maybe a comet. And this bluish light in the night sky wasn't recognized as a planet until 1781. This mysterious world is now named for the father of Saturn, the Greek god of the skies. Uranus orbits the Sun from a distance of 1.78 billion miles. It follows an elliptical path, taking 84 Earth years to complete its journey around the Sun. The third largest planet in the solar system, it measures 4 times the size of Earth. Rotating much faster than Earth, a day on Uranus is only 18 hours long. Strangely, despite its large size, the planet's gravity is just a little over 90% of Earth's. So a 100-pound Earthling would weigh only 91 pounds there. But that's enough gravity to keep this planet's 27 moons in orbit. Long thought to be a quiet, cold, even somewhat dull planet, recent images have shown just the opposite. The Hubble Space Telescope has revealed a world sometimes gripped by violent winds and persistent thunderstorms. These seasonal storms can produce winds that exceed 300 miles per hour, packing winds twice as powerful as a Category 5 hurricane, the deadliest here on Earth. Even more incredible, a single storm can cover an area the size of the continental United States. Every 42 years, the dark side of the planet comes into the light. This change in temperature is what causes such violent storms. Uranus has no solid outer surface. Like Jupiter and Saturn, it's called a gas giant, meaning the surface is made up almost entirely of gas. But its core is solid and rocky, and being so far from the Sun, that core is surrounded by a mantle of ice. So this planet is also referred to as an ice giant. The planet's huge size means there is intense pressure on its core. And all that pressure on the carbon-bearing materials found at the planet's epicenter means one thing: the formation of diamonds. Scientists theorize that Uranus's core contains trillions of these precious stones. Thick layers of ice surround Uranus's core, but this ice is not just made up of water. Methane and ammonia also form part of the mix. Hydrogen and helium gas make up the planet's outer layer. There may even be an ocean of liquid water, replete with dissolved ammonia, beneath the shrouded cloudy surface. Uranus's thick atmosphere makes the planet appear smooth and featureless. That's because from Earth, our view is blocked by a permanent haze. We are seeing the atmosphere, not the surface. Methane, just 2% of Uranus's atmosphere, absorbs red light, making the planet appear blue. One of the strangest things about Uranus is the angle of its rotation. The planet appears to be tipped on its side, more than 90 degrees. On this planet, the equator runs from north to south. This odd orientation is perhaps the result of a long-ago collision with a huge asteroid, meteorite, or even another planet. Rotating sideways also makes for unusual seasons. The North Pole, for example, only receives sunlight 1/2 of the year. But inhabiting a zone so far from the sun, Uranus's temperatures vary little from summer to winter, averaging around -350 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Like Saturn, Uranus has rings, at least a few of which may be the dust of a moon, long ago shattered in a collision. Unlike Saturn, though, the rings of Uranus were not discovered until 1977. And oddly, these rings run horizontally from top to bottom, north to south. Uranus's rings vary in color, but the outermost is blue, indicating the presence of water ice. Yet another example that water, a key to life, is not all that rare in the solar system after all. NASA's Voyager 2 is the only spacecraft to have ever visited Uranus. Launched in August 1977, it took almost 9 years until January of 1986 to reach the planet. The spacecraft studied this world's unique tilt, its moons and rings, before moving on to Uranus's neighbor Neptune. Voyager 2 is now continuing its journey into interstellar space. But NASA is planning future missions that will help us learn more about this quirky, often misunderstood blue-green planet. This is Space School, signing off. Class dismissed.
Okay, so how Uranus got its tilt. Just imagine, huge thing comes, and it's tilted like this, and the rings, this ring is actually pretty, yeah, that's what it's like. The rings go this way, and it is tilted like this. As so.
So compared to Earth, 84 years on Uranus is about 1 year on Earth. Uranus is 14.5 times as massive as the Earth. It has super low density, which means you can only experience around 89% of the force of gravity.
The weight, it's basically just take off 10% of what your weight is, and that's about what your weight would be on Uranus. So, 100 pounds, going to be around 90, 91 pounds on Uranus.
Uranus orbits the sun on its side, so it's not like Earth. It's completely the opposite. Uranus looks more like a rolling ball in a circular pattern, if you can imagine that. A day on the North Pole of Uranus lasts about half a Uranian year, which is 84 Earth years.
Okay, so some more facts about Uranus is that it is the coldest planet in the solar system. So that's why it's like an icy giant. It gives off less heat than it absorbs from the sun. So yeah, again, it's just really cold. So that adds to that. And basically, it's just very cold there. So
up to 900 miles kilometers per hour. This is 560 miles per hour. And Uranus is often referred to as the ice giant.
The chemical element uranium, discovered in 1789, was named after the newly discovered planet Uranus. Uranus rings differ from those found around Saturn in both size and particles and the particles' composition.
Again, as we've said before, the rings around Uranus are large ice boulders and dust particles. So, yeah, it's different from those other planets.
The area of Uranus is 16 times that of Earth. The distance between Earth and Uranus changes constantly. Both Earth and Uranus are spherical. They orbit the Sun and tilt on their axis. And the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, all have shorter days than Earth.
Yeah.
A few more facts.
Yeah,
Read
it's
off in the video.